Trump tried to shut her down. Called her names. Tried to take the room, but Jasmine Crockett gave him something far more damaging. The truth, calmly delivered. What was meant to be a polished, made-for-TV town hall quickly unraveled into something else. Held at the packed Glass City Center in Toledo, Ohio, the event had been hyped across every major network, a criminal justice reform summit featuring President Trump and a handful of bipartisan lawmakers. Everything was staged to perfection. The moderator had rehearsed every cue card. The audience had been carefully screened. The goal, deliver a tight, agreeable broadcast about law and order. Applause, then move on. That was the plan, but something felt off. Backstage, staffers whispered. Trump was quieter than usual, not composed, but uneasy. He kept tapping a thick stack of talking points, glancing between the monitor and his notes. No red cap tonight, just a navy suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. In the front row, families affected by policing laws sat holding signs with names of loved ones, sons, daughters, brothers. Silent. Present. Local activists had made sure they were in frame. Congressman Alan Pierce from Florida muttered behind the scenes, "This panel's too stacked. Too many voices. Not enough softballs." He'd spent the morning lobbying producers to drop Jasmine Crockett. Too direct, he warned. Too unpredictable. They didn't listen. Now, she stood just feet from the President of the United States, poised, still, unreadable. The moderator welcomed the nation. Each speaker was introduced to applause. Crockett was last. She gave a small nod, not to the crowd, but to herself. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Former public defender. Civil rights attorney. Applause came, not as loud as Trump's. The room still leaned red. Everyone knew it. But Crockett didn't flinch. She adjusted the mic, waited. The first 20 minutes dragged, safe talking points, recycled sound bites. Trump repeated familiar lines, "We've done more for criminal justice than anyone. More than Obama. Tremendous success." The audience clapped on cue. It was all choreographed. Then the moderator turned to Crockett. "Congresswoman, you've reviewed recent DOJ reports. Do you believe federal efforts have been enough?" She leaned in. No, the silence was immediate. The moderator hesitated, expecting her to soften the blow. "May I explain why?" The floor was hers, her eyes locked on Trump, not hostile. "Just steady. I've read the December 2023 DOJ report on the Fort Worth Police Department. The violations it outlines mirror the same patterns we've seen in Baltimore, Louisville, Minneapolis: excessive force, racial targeting, lack of accountability." Trump shifted. "Just slightly. I heard you say in Baton Rouge that police reform is done under your administration. But this report doesn't lie, Mr. President. People are still being harmed. When you say it's done, it feels like you're saying their pain doesn't matter anymore." No gasp. Just stillness, the kind that tells you everyone's pretending to breathe normally. Trump forced a smile. "Well, Jasmine, I know you like the camera, but maybe stick to your district. You don't understand the federal system. We've done more," she cut in. "I do understand. That's why I'm telling you, the problem isn't fixed. It's ignored." Now the room stirred. No cheers. No heckling. Just energy. People leaned in. Something real was happening. The format cracked. The script slipped, and she wasn't finished. There's a reason people underestimate Jasmine Crockett. She doesn't enter a room to dominate. She doesn't perform. She waits. Listens. And when she speaks, it cuts. For the first half hour, she'd sat quietly. No notes. No fidgeting. Watching. Measuring. Timing. In Dallas courtrooms, prosecutors used to whisper, "If she's quiet today, get ready." It meant she was loading facts, not for theater, but for precision, and in Toledo, she was precise. "I'm not saying policing is easy," she said, looking straight into the camera. "But telling Americans it's fixed while people are still being brutalized? That's not leadership. That's PR." Trump leaned forward. "Excuse me, that's a lie." We've put more money into reform than anyone. You're ignoring the facts. She tilted her head slightly, as if offering one last chance. No, sir. I'm quoting them. She opened a folder. No post-its. No highlights. Just 3 crisp pages, according to your own DOJ, the Fort Worth Police Department used tasers against black drivers at 5 times the rate of white drivers. She paused. In that same report, your administration concluded, quote, no pattern of bias could be determined. She looked up. Explain to me how that works. Trump waved a hand. That's out of context. You people twist numbers. That report had nothing to do with me. That's old data. She fired back. It was published under your DOJ. 4 months ago. Again, silence. Trump opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He glanced at the moderator for help. None came. Someone in the audience coughed. Another muttered. She's right. And that was all it took. The room shifted. Not fully against Trump, but clearly toward her. People stopped passively watching and started recording. We keep watching mothers bury their children while the government says everything's under control, she continued. It's not. And when someone like me says it out loud, it's treated like a threat. But I'm not here to threaten. I'm here to represent. Trump snapped. You don't represent anyone but yourself. You've been on TV for what, a year? Don't come up here lecturing me about problems I already solved. You think you know more than me? She didn't blink. When it comes to lived reality? Yes. I do. Boom, not shouted. Not staged. Just truth, delivered exactly when it needed to be, and in that moment, she didn't just hold her ground, she took it. Her words weren't dramatic. But they rang clear, like glass breaking in a quiet room. The kind of moment where a crowd stops pretending to be neutral. Some clapped. Some murmured. The moderator jumped in, trying to steer the conversation back to productive dialogue. But the room had already turned. Everyone on that stage felt it. This wasn't just policy now. This was power. And Jasmine Crockett had just taken it. Trump leaned back in his chair, blinking fast, face flushing red. He gestured off stage. Likely hoping for a break. A topic change. Anything. But Jasmine wasn't finished. I came here to talk about justice, she said. And justice doesn't work if only one side gets to define it. She closed her folder and folded her hands in her lap. That simple act, closing the folder, spoke louder than a dozen more minutes of argument. She wasn't playing defense. She wasn't begging for agreement. She had said what needed to be said. And the country was watching. Trump tried again, this time louder, sharper, voice rising to reclaim control. No, he cut in. I'm not gonna sit here and let this woman grandstand on my record. She's not even on the Judiciary Committee. Barely made it to Congress. Give me a break. The words hit hard, not because they landed, but because they were so clearly flailing. He wasn't arguing policy anymore. He was trying to put her back in her place. But Crockett didn't move. I was elected just like you, she said evenly. And I earned this seat, not with ads or donors, but with service. Trump scoffed. You can mock me, Mr. President, she added, but I've defended people in courtrooms you've never even stepped inside. The room took a breath. That slow, collective inhale people take when something real is happening. Trump laughed, but it didn't carry. Defended, he sneered. Lady, you don't know anything about how this country really works. You people always talking. Never doing. That was it. You people. Crockett repeated it softly, not outraged, just clear, deliberate, you people. Trump stammered. No, I meant Democrats. You know, the moderator stiffened. Everyone on stage froze. Crockett tilted her head. You sure that's what you meant? Trump looked off stage again. Waved a hand like he was done. But she wasn't. Because I know exactly what it sounds like when someone tries to make me smaller with language. I've been hearing it my whole life. The difference is, I don't flinch anymore. Now the audience was shifting. Some uncomfortable. Others nodding slowly. Then Trump made the mistake that would be replayed across every news channel in America. You're not that important, he snapped. Nobody even knew your name until 2 minutes ago. That was the moment. Crockett paused. Then smiled, quietly. Not smug. Just, confirmed. That's the thing, sir. You think people have to be famous to matter. A whisper in the crowd, wow. Too loud to ignore. She kept going. There are millions of people in this country who feel invisible, who get dismissed the second they speak. Told to sit down. Be grateful. Be quiet. I may not be famous to you, but I'm known by the people I serve. And they know exactly why I'm here. Trump tried to interrupt, but this time, the moderator cut in, Mr. President, let's allow her to finish. Trump leaned back, face tight, arms crossed. Seething. Crockett stayed calm. I didn't come here for claps, she said. I came because I've held mothers who've lost sons, not because they were dangerous, but because they were driving through the wrong neighborhood. That's not a headline. That's a Tuesday. Scattered applause. Not the whole room. But enough to shift the air. A man in the back stood. A woman near the front placed her hand over her heart. Trump leaned into the mic. You're done. Crockett didn't flinch. Not even close. That line ended up on t-shirts less than 24 hours later. Not because she shouted. Not because she won a soundbite war. But because she spoke with clarity, and clarity is power. She didn't need volume. She had truth. And people felt it. Then Trump said the thing that broke the tone entirely. It wasn't just offensive, it was ugly. The room splintered. Supporters who came draped in red, white, and blue now sat with arms crossed tighter, eyes down, avoiding eye contact. It wasn't the clash they came for. It was something real. Something revealing. Trump leaned forward again, ready to strike. You know what your problem is, he said, stabbing the air toward her. You don't respect authority. You don't appreciate law enforcement. People like you are always complaining, always looking for a victim story. That's what gets you people votes. There it was again. You people. Jasmine didn't blink. She leaned into the mic. You think criticism means disrespect. That's why nothing ever changes. Law enforcement should be honored when it's honest. When it protects. Not when it punishes first and explains later. Some clapped. She didn't wait for it. I've represented officers in court. Good ones. I know the difference. That's why I don't back down when the system hides behind a badge instead of fixing what's broken. Trump scoffed. Spoken like a true liberal. You're a disaster. An embarrassment. Nobody cares what some angry congresswoman from Texas thinks. Honestly? You're lucky you're even up here. Gasps. Real this time. Audible. The moderator froze. And the whole country leaned in. He was out of moves. Behind the cameras, producers waved frantically, signaling for a commercial break. They weren't getting one. Jasmine slowly turned her head, eyes locked on Trump. You think this is luck? Her voice dropped, quieter. But heavier. This isn't luck, sir, this is 20 years of grinding. Of taking the cases no one wanted. Defending people who couldn't afford a name like yours to protect them. This, she nodded at the moment itself, is what earned. Looks like. The room went still, the kind of stillness that feels like the air has changed. Even Congressman Pierce, who tried to get her pulled from the lineup earlier, now leaned back in his chair, lips pressed tight. No one on that panel wanted to be part of what was happening, because Jasmine wasn't making points anymore. She was making history. Then a voice rose from the crowd, clear, steady, unafraid. She's telling the truth. Heads turned to an older black man stood near the aisle, denim jacket worn at the sleeves. He held up a photo, a young man in a graduation cap, smiling. "That's my grandson," he said. "They shot him during a traffic stop 2 blocks from our house." Said he reached for something. It was his license. Security started to move toward him. Crockett raised a hand, just slightly. She looked right at him. "What's his name?" "Terrence," he said. "Terrence Miles." She turned to Trump. "You hear that name?" She didn't wait for a response. There are thousands like it. Not numbers. Not polls. Names. Lives. Trump stayed silent. Crockett looked back to the man. "We carry his name with us tonight." He sat back down, silent again. The photo still raised in his hand, but now it wasn't just Jasmine speaking. The audience was speaking with her. This wasn't a panel anymore. It was a reckoning. Even Trump's supporters, men in polos, women with small flags, sat still. Some crossed their arms. Others stared down at their laps. A young woman near the back leaned toward her friend and whispered, "She's saying what nobody else ever does." The camera panned slowly. Tears. Tight jaws. And Donald Trump, for the first time all night, silent. His arms stayed crossed, but he no longer leaned forward. He looked away. One foot tapped under the table. Small. Uncertain, and Jasmine, she sat tall, hands folded, like she'd been waiting her whole career for this exact moment, not for herself, but for everyone who never got to speak. Then came the unraveling. Trump tried to smirk. It collapsed. The weight of the moment was catching up to him, and everyone could see it. Donald Trump, the man who built a brand on control, was losing it. His hand gripped the edge of the table. His lips moved, but nothing came out. He looked at Crockett. Still calm. Still watching him. Like a lawyer watching a witness fall apart on the stand. Then he snapped, "You know what? I'm sick of this nonsense." His voice cracked with volume. "You're fake. Fake smart. Fake tough. Fake everything. You've been coached for this moment. It's pathetic. You don't care about justice. You care about TikTok. About clicks." He turned on the moderator. "This whole thing is a setup. You put her up here to humiliate me. I should walk off this stage." The moderator leaned in, trying to stay composed. "Mr. President, with respect, this was an agreed panel. Don't talk to me like I'm some guest." Trump roared. "I'm the President of the United States." Phones went up across the room again, not to record a debate, but to capture a meltdown. Jasmine stayed silent. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. Trump kept going, now ranting. She thinks she's some kind of star because she threw out a few stats. Please. I've built businesses. I've run this country. I've dealt with loudmouths like her for decades. They show up for cameras, then disappear when it's time to fix anything. Then he looked her dead in the eye. "You're a disgrace." A beat. Crockett leaned forward, steady, clear. "You don't get to define me, sir. And you definitely don't get to define disgrace." Now the crowd murmured again. Phones raised. Every mic caught it. She didn't raise her voice. "I'm not here for the spotlight. I'm here because people like Terrence Miles never got one. I'm here because people who don't look like you don't get this platform unless we fight 10 times harder, speak 10 times louder, and even then, we still get told we're not enough." Trump interrupted, louder now, angrier. "Oh, here we go. The race card. Every time someone like you loses an argument, it's racism. That's your only play." No gasp this time. Just stillness. The kind where something lands and everyone knows it, because now it wasn't about policy. It wasn't about law enforcement. It wasn't even about reform. It was about who's allowed to speak and who gets shut down the moment they get too good at it. Crockett's reply came immediately. No, sir. You played that card the moment you called me you people. I'm just reminding you, some of us didn't buy our way into this room. That line played on every network that night. Clipped and shared across every feed. Backstage, producers panicked. One shouted, "We need a break." But no one dared cut the feed now. It was too raw. Too real. The kind of moment you can't script. The moderator tried weakly. Congresswoman Crockett, maybe we can. She was already wrapping up. I'll stop here, she said softly. Because I think the country just saw exactly what I've been saying, not just from me, but from him. She gestured lightly toward Trump, then turned to the crowd. I'm not here to win arguments. I'm here to stop pretending that truth needs permission. Silence, then, clapping. Slow at first. Then louder. Not just from those who agreed, even a few who didn't, because everyone in that room knew they had just witnessed something rare, not a performance. Not a takedown, but a woman standing her ground with nothing but facts, history, and nerve, while the most powerful man in the country came undone right in front of her, and it wasn't just the people in that room who saw it within minutes. The clip hit the internet like wildfire. And America took sides. It was only 93 seconds long. No music. No graphics, just a split screen. One woman holding her ground. One man losing it, and a country deciding which looked more like power. Red-faced and boiling, Trump sat rigid. Across from him, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat poised, hands folded, eyes locked on his. She never looked shaken. Not once. Minutes after the live town hall aired, a user on X uploaded the clip with a caption that went instantly viral. She ended him on national TV. Another read, Crockett didn't clap back, she dismantled him. Within 10 minutes, it caught fire. First came political commentators. Then the comedians. Then the athletes. And then regular users, no blue checks, just 30 followers and a moment to share, with captions like, she said what everyone's been thinking for years. This wasn't a debate. This was a live dismantling. I've never seen him this rattled. It wasn't just the words people were sharing, it was the way she sat still while Trump flailed. The way she let silence stretch after every fact. How she didn't even need to talk over him to win the moment. By midnight, the hashtag #MadTrump was trending second in the US. By 2 a.m., it hit number 1. By sunrise, every major outlet, from the Washington Post to TMZ, had the clip embedded at the top of their homepage. Even neutral anchors couldn't mask their reactions. On a Cleveland morning show, one local reporter put it plainly, I don't know what Trump thought he was walking into, but Jasmine Crockett showed up like she brought the whole courtroom with her. That quote alone was reposted over 3.2 million times in 24 hours. And Crockett? She said nothing. No tweet. No live stream. No press tour. She'd already spoken, and to her, that was enough. The internet could take it from there. But the country? It wasn't letting go. In barbershops, coffee counters, gas stations across Ohio, the talk had already begun. She held her own. She embarrassed him. She just put herself on the map. Even in conservative towns, the take wasn't so clear-cut. At a diner in Findlay, a middle-aged man in a Buckeyes hoodie watched the replay on his phone. I don't like her. Politics, he said to his wife, but that girl didn't back down. Gotta respect that. And it wasn't just talk. Memes exploded. GIFs. TikToks. One TikTok set her final quote to a marching band beat. It had already been used in over 30,000 remixes by noon. Young people quoted her on Snapchat stories. College debate teams broke down her timing, tone, and delivery. Public school teachers played the clip in civics classes, asking students, what did you notice? What made it effective? Then, something unexpected resurfaced. A courthouse interview from 2016, Jasmine, still a defense attorney, saying, "People underestimate you when you stay calm. That's fine. Let them. Just means they'll never see the hit coming." The comment section lit up. "She's been this woman since day one. She warned y'all 8 years ago." But even as praise poured in, Jasmine stayed quiet. No victory lap. No gloating. Because this wasn't a moment for clout. It was pain, precision, and truth, delivered exactly how she planned. Trump's team, however, scrambled. By mid-morning, his campaign released a sloppy statement, ending with, "President Trump remains focused on real issues, not dramatic performances by people craving attention." The irony didn't go unnoticed. Within an hour, the quote was printed on t-shirts. Front, dramatic performance. Back, that was clarity. JC. And just like that, she wasn't just Jasmine Crockett anymore. She was JC. Justice called. But this wasn't over. The media was circling. Spin machines revved into overdrive. Technically, the town hall was still happening, but no one was watching. Not in the room. Not at home. Not even the moderator. The energy had shifted beyond anything producers could control. Panelists still spoke, tossing out stats and policy soundbites, but it all felt like filler. Background noise after the headliner had already left the stage. Except Jasmine hadn't left. She sat still, composed, unbothered, her presence commanding even in silence. Every time another panelist spoke, eyes drifted back to her. The way she watched. The way she listened. She wasn't trying to own the room. She already had. And Trump? He was still, arms crossed so tightly it looked painful. No more outbursts. No more swagger. Just a man who had said too much and realized it too late. Behind the cameras, network staffers scrambled. Executives barked into phones, ordering emergency changes to next-day programming. They didn't care about the rest of the panel. The show was now Crockett versus Trump, and they were ready to milk every frame of it. At CNN's Cincinnati studio, they cut into their regular programming. "She dismantled him," said political analyst Sherry Langdon. And she did it without yelling. Without theatrics. That wasn't a soundbite. That was lawyering. He couldn't touch her. Another guest added, "I haven't seen a moment hit this hard since the Obama-Romney debate in 2012, but this? This had fire." Over on Fox News, the tone was different. "This was clearly a coordinated ambush," one anchor said. President Trump was set up. They baited him with a radical far-left voice who came loaded with gotcha stats. But even there, even among critics, you could feel the hesitation. They could argue the format. They could spin the setup. But no one could pretend Trump came out on top. Meanwhile, on MSNBC, the screen split. A panel of black women across the country, a professor in Akron, a nurse in Southfield, a small business owner in Topeka, each reacting in real time. Their faces said what millions already felt: this wasn't just a moment. This was a shift. "She said what I've been trying to explain to people for years," said the nurse. "It's not about being angry. It's about being told to sit down every time you speak." And tonight, she refused. The professor nodded. That wasn't just a political moment. That was cultural. Generational. The split-screen broadcast blew up across social media. Within the hour, #SheDidn'tSitDown joined #CrockettClapsBack and #MadTrump among the top trending hashtags. By mid-afternoon, the original town hall clip had passed 25 million views. Back in Toledo, the official broadcast wrapped awkwardly. Closing remarks felt rushed. Outro music came in too early. The credits rolled over a still shot of the stage, Crockett. Seated, arms folded, eyes forward, unmoved. As audience members filed out, local news reporters swarmed for reactions. "I didn't expect it to go down like that," said a man in his 40s wearing a camo jacket. But she didn't lie. She brought receipts, added a college student still streaming the clip on his phone. That's what people want, not yelling. Receipts. Some stayed in the lobby, rewatching the moment they had just seen. Live. Inside the green room, Crockett finally stood. An aide handed her a bottle of water. She accepted it with a nod, no grin, no celebration, just quiet composure. "You good?" the aide asked. "I said what I needed to," she replied. No victory lap. No gloating. Just a long breath. She reached for her coat. Outside, cameras waited, hungry for a follow-up soundbite. She gave none. She didn't need to. By sunrise on the East Coast, her silence was speaking louder than any headline. Jasmine Crockett's face was stitched into the fabric of the internet. You couldn't scroll without seeing her, clips, quotes, images of her seated calmly, while Trump flailed beside her. She had become the eye of a digital storm, unplanned, unspun, undeniable. Her name trended in all 50 states, including places she'd never campaigned, visited, or even been covered. And yet everyone suddenly knew who she was. They didn't need a bio. The clip said enough. On TikTok, creators spliced together the moment Trump snapped, "You're a disgrace," cutting straight to her reply, "You don't get to define me as sir." Some clips added music. Most didn't. The power came through either way. One user captioned it, "She spoke for every woman who's ever been talked over at a meeting." Another wrote, "This wasn't a debate. This was court." And Trump lost. Hundreds of remix versions followed. Teenagers, veterans, nurses, even former police officers posted raw reactions. One retired officer in Dayton said, "I worked the streets 28 years. She didn't disrespect law enforcement. She told the truth about the system. If you can't admit that, you're not ready to fix anything." His video hit 5 million views in 12 hours. In a civics class in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a teacher played the clip. She paused it and asked, "What stood out to you?" A student answered instantly. She didn't yell. She didn't insult. She just held the facts. The teacher smiled. Exactly. That's what power can look like. On Instagram, fashion influencers dissected Jasmine's look, a simple navy blazer. A muted pin. Understated. Sharp. Deliberate. She knew she'd be underestimated. One post read. She let the facts speak. That's style. Meanwhile, parody accounts had a field day. One viral edit showed Jasmine folding her arms, then cut to a game over screen, like she just won a boss battle. That alone pulled 3.7 million likes by noon. But not all the noise was praise. Far-right accounts pushed their spin, ambush. Setup. Publicity stunt. One conservative blogger claimed, "She's just another loudmouth looking for a Netflix deal." But it didn't land. The footage was too raw. Too live. Too real. Even moderates weighed in. A centrist podcast host posted, "I don't agree with her politics, but I respect the way she carried herself. No shouting. No dodging. Just facts. That's how it should be done." Then came the celebrities. A-list actors. Rappers. Comedians. All reposting the clip. One well-known comic tweeted, "She turned that panel into a masterclass." And Trump? Still stuck in detention. A Grammy-winning singer captioned her post, "This is what it looks like when grace walks into chaos." In a single day, Jasmine's following tripled across platforms. She didn't say a word. No post. No interview. Just the silence of someone who didn't need to repeat herself. Her supporters did the talking. In Charlotte, Michigan, a mural went up on a community center wall, Jasmine's profile in blue, beneath it, "Truth doesn't need permission." In Springfield, Missouri, local organizers held a teach-in on the courthouse steps. No campaign. Signs, just laptops and speakers, playing her exchange on loop. Then came a leak. An email from a senior Trump campaign official. This moment hurt us. It's sticking. We need a pivot fast. It wasn't just a bad look anymore. It was a political wound. And as America kept replaying the moment, examining every word and pause, one thing became clear: Jasmine Crockett hadn't just taken control of a panel. She had taken over the conversation. But the media wasn't done. By day 2, every outlet wanted her reaction. Even if she wasn't ready to give one. Now the questions weren't about what she said, they were about why it hit so hard. Why it spread so fast. Why it made people pause. The moment had become the lead story across every network. And no one could quite agree on what it meant. Because it wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about identity. Power. Voice. It had become a national mirror. And no one liked what they saw staring back. Cable news turned forensic. Pundits rewound the footage, froze frames, analyzed every second. On NBC, a behavioral analyst said, "Watch here, right before she speaks, he leans back. Fingers twitch. That's defensive behavior." On Fox News, they hit back hard. "This was performance art, not politics," snapped one host. She came in looking for a fight. But it was too late. The clip had already done its work. And no matter how they spun it, everyone knew Jasmine Crockett didn't just win the moment. She owned it. And the media? They handed her a trophy. She humiliated the president, one co-host barked. The anchor shook her head. "No," she said. "She humiliated the office." There's a difference. Even some right-leaning voices began to shift. A regular guest on a conservative morning show in Lincoln, Nebraska, known for dismissing anything remotely left, surprised viewers, "I don't agree with her politics. Not even a little. But she spoke from experience. And I can't pretend. That's not valuable." Online, think pieces poured in, the moment black women took the mic, and kept it. Why Jasmine Crockett's calm was louder than any shout. What happens when the president can't control the room? But the most shared came from a small paper in Bakersfield, California. She didn't interrupt, she outlasted. The writer, a retired high school principal, broke it down simply: it's not just that she made her point. It's how she didn't move. Didn't panic. She didn't throw a punch, she let him throw his. And when the dust settled, she was still standing. That's not noise. That's strength. Teachers printed it out. Pasted it on classroom walls. Churches read it from pulpits. Sermons quoted it by name. Meanwhile, Crockett's office was overwhelmed. Calls. Emails. Media requests. MSNBC wanted her at 7 p.m. CNN offered an exclusive. The Today Show asked if she'd fly to New York. The View left 3 voicemails. She turned down all of it. Not maybe later. Not I'll think about it. Just no. Her chief of staff, Adrian Byrd, who'd been with her since her statehouse days, answered each request with the same steady reply: "Congresswoman Crockett will speak when she's ready. Not before." But the pressure didn't let up. By day 3, the White House issued a dry, legal-sounding statement. It was a passionate, lively exchange. The president remains committed to criminal justice reform and appreciates a diversity of viewpoints. But the tone gave away the truth. They were rattled. The moment had stuck. They couldn't spin it, bury it, or shout over it. Every counterattack only made her stronger. That same day, a conservative super PAC ran an ad in 5 swing states calling her disrespectful, loud, dangerous. The internet flipped it in under 24 hours. Disrespectful, loud, dangerous. Sounded a lot like every freedom fighter in history. People started printing those 3 words on hoodies. Meanwhile, Congress returned to session. But the Capitol felt different. Lawmakers whispered in corridors. Some avoided her altogether. Others, especially women, approached her directly. Quietly. Gratefully. No cameras. No sound bites. Just silent recognition. One retiring senator from Oregon caught her in the hallway. "I've been here 32 years, she said. I've never seen anyone hold their ground like that, on live TV. It mattered." Crockett nodded and kept walking. No smile. No swagger. She knew, every moment of truth costs something. And when she finally did speak, it wasn't in a studio or behind a podium. It was somewhere much quieter. And far more powerful. 3 days after the town hall, Jasmine Crockett stepped into a modest community center in Tyler, Texas. No press. No lights. No stage. Just folding chairs. A dusty floor. 40 people, mostly black women. A few elders. A scattering of teenagers with their parents. The room was quiet. Not out of nerves, but reverence. She had done something they never thought they'd see. She told the truth, to power, on live TV, and never blinked. She didn't come to relive the moment. She came to listen. "Thank you all for coming," she said, voice soft, southern, steady. "I know the last few days have been loud. But I wanted to be here. Not because of the noise, but because of the quiet. This is where I learned how to speak." A woman in the back raised her hand, tentative. "Can I ask something?" "Always," Jasmine said. "What gave you the nerve to say all that? I mean, in front of him. On TV?" Crockett smiled. "It wasn't nerve," she said. "It was tired." The answer hit like a weight. Tired of watching the truth get bent until it breaks. Tired of meetings where pain gets filtered out to make people comfortable. "I've spent years in courtrooms representing people who couldn't afford mistakes, or bail, or second chances. Meanwhile, the people writing the rules? They could afford everything. Including silence." She paused. "Silence protects power. And I'm not here to protect that." Nods. Murmurs. A low A teenager, maybe 15, stood up from the second row. Her voice cracked. "Some of my friends said you embarrassed him. Like, that was the goal. Was it?" Jasmine leaned on the edge of the table. "No. I didn't go there to embarrass anyone. I went to say what too many people are forced to whisper. If that embarrassed him, maybe that says something." She let the silence hang. Truth isn't aggression. It's clarity. And we've gone too long letting people confuse the two. An elder near the front, church fan in her lap, whispered. Say that again." Jasmine chuckled gently. "You've all raised daughters. You know how hard it is to get people to hear them when they speak with certainty. If we raise our voices, it's too much. If we stay quiet, it's not enough. I didn't speak to change Trump's mind. I spoke so little girls like her," she nodded at the teen, "know they can challenge power and still walk out whole." That line sank in deep. Someone wiped a tear. Another whispered, "Lord." That day, Jasmine finally posted something online. Not a quote. Not a clip. Not a photo from the town hall. Just a snapshot of a handwritten note on yellow paper. No caption. It read, "Speak the truth, even if your hands shake. Even if your voice doesn't." JC, it went viral instantly, not for the flash, but for the cost of writing it. By then, the media had moved on. New scandal. New poll. New distraction. But her moment didn't fade. It echoed. In classrooms. At lunch tables. In sermons, office corners, family group chats. It didn't become a confrontation. It became clarity. Later that week, a podcast host asked her, "Would you do anything differently?" She answered simply, "No. Because I didn't go to fight. I went to represent." And she had, not just her district, but the woman in the courthouse waiting room. The teacher explaining bias to blank stares. The nurse clocking in after watching her cousin get cuffed over a broken taillight. The student torn between truth and safety. Jasmine didn't chase the moment. But when it came, she didn't run either. Because courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it sits in a chair, folds its hands, and says what no one else is willing to say. If this story moved you, share it. Not because it's viral, but because moments like these don't just pass. They plant something. And what grows from it? That's up to us.